You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Biz-Souls. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen. And we're doing a deja vu today, sort of, not really.
Yes. Well, yeah, Michael has been on two other podcasts, 2 or 3, something like that.
At least 2. We did 2 kind of back to back. We kind of hit, two generals, and then one very focused on specifically around systems thinking.
Right. And you had written an article recently on Ikigai, and I read it and I was like, hey, this goes really well with purposeful play. Let's do a podcast on it. And you agreed. And so here we are.
And the only comment I have on that is that when she read about that, it made her happy. And which is good because she's been upset at me. And she said, you know what? I'm going to quit. Michael can be your co-host. I'm fed up with you.
I did say that.
So anyway.
Actually, I think I emailed you about it, Michael. It's like, do you want to do it?
All right. Okay.
I'll be a guest.
Back to the subject.
The happy side is that I'll be the guest.
There you go. So for those of you who haven't seen the lovely and talented Michael Woudenberg on our show before, I'm going to give you a little bit about his background. And this is directly from LinkedIn. Let me put my glasses on. With over 18 years of experience in advanced technologies, he delivers systems innovation at Polymath Disciplines, a strategic advising firm that delivers cross-disciplinary analysis and solutions for complex problems across people, processes, and products. I'm going to skip down because this is very long. He is also an award-winning author and coach, sharing his insights and frameworks on technology, innovation, philosophy, psychology, and more at polymathbeing.com. It goes on because you do so many different things. You're very smart. So anyway, so talk to us about Ikigai. How did you come up? Jeffrey, have we asked him your question before?
Yeah. We've already, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah.
Because,
we already did that.
Yeah. Okay,
that would be.
I don't want you interrupting me and say, wait. We have to start at the beginning. All right, Michael.
Yes.
Tell us about Ikigai, how you came across it, and what led you to this philosophy, doing what you do.
So Ikigai is an interesting one. So a buddy of mine referenced it. She's probably, let's just say, a decade ago, right? And I thought it was interesting, but it seemed to be too monofocused, like the instantiation that is, like how Ikigai is typically viewed in the zeitgeist was that you would find a work that you would love, that people need, that you could get paid for, and that you're good at. And so it's just this Venn diagram that kind of loops together, and there's this perfect Ikigai in the middle. And at that point in time, I was working in a job that was miserable, and I didn't have a lot of opportunity or where was I going to go find a job that did Ikigai? Like, even then, like, who am I, right? And that's something like, I'm sorry, at that point in time, 10 years ago, I was, mid-30s. So I'm looking at it like, okay, great. What am I good at? What do I love? What do I need? I mean, I know different things that I love, different things that I'm good at. Sometimes I'm good at something I absolutely hate it, right? But, and then what do people need and things like that? And so kind of fast forward a little bit, I had stumbled across a book called The Polymath, and I was like, that's the name of what I do. My brain works in a way that crosses domains and disciplines. Now, I don't, people are like, who are you to call yourself a polymath? And I'm like, well, I'm an aspiring polymath. I don't view it as an end state. I view it as a goal. It gives me freedom to kind of go explore different domains and disciplines. It's like, so I kind of liken it as insatiable curiosity, the humility to accept I don't know everything or all the answers, and then intentional reframing. If I can take a problem or an observation and rotate it and see if it changes definition, then I didn't actually understand the problem. That gives me something to continue to go look at with that curiosity, right?
Right.
So that's where I started about 3 years ago, started Polymathic Being. It was kind of starting to sit down, collect my thoughts, put them on paper, and explore across domains and disciplines. What can we go find out? And in doing so, it was interesting because a buddy of mine a few months ago was like, it's just a neighbor down the road. He's like, Mike, you know, work-life balance, the term work-life balance is stupid because it assumes work, then life, then balance, or that's one way you
You
could read
always
it,
say that. Yes.
right? And
Sorry.
so I was like, okay. And he's like, you need to write an essay on that one. You need to write an essay. He's been bugging me for a bit. So I finally sat down and I was like, okay, how does that work? And I pulled back the idea of Ikigai and I started looking at it in concert with my life and what I've done. So I was chasing a false dream in Ikigai for a long time that I would have to find the job that would give me Ikigai. And what I ended up finding out is that I left a company just through a riff, and then I ended up taking a sabbatical for a little over a year. And in doing so, I wrote two books, two novels. I really knuckled down on polymathic being, and I started, getting the tempo and everything built up on that. I went from literally, the initial 0 subscribers to we're about almost 5,500 right now. So great growth, nice steady growth. But what I also did is I cast out the writing, the novels, the nonfiction writing though, but then also teaching. So I teach at the University of Arkansas now. And what I found was that instead of looking for Ikigai in one place, that job, I found Ikigai in many places. And in that, what I found is I wasn't relying on the job to give me the Ikigai explicitly. And what that meant was I actually found it at my job as well. So instead of trying to demand too much from that role, I was able to find out how to diversify the balance life before work. And in doing so, I found work to be much more balanced.
Well, I don't believe in a work-life balance to that end. I believe in life balance because work is part of life.
100% agree with that one.
So,
You just froze, Michael.
Oh no,
yes.
Oh, there you go.
I paused because it looked like Jeffrey was raising his finger as he wanted to ask a
Oh,
question.
okay.
Oh no 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 no. Well, it's a comment on it. So one of the things I was watching this program on entrepreneurship, and they're saying a couple of things pop up. First of all, entrepreneurs are more than welcome to go in a direction, and then they fully expect, and it's called the corridor effect, that if you go into a direction, other things are going to pop up into you that you hadn't even thought of that you're going to jump into. And it sounds like, that's first of all, it's a quality that you should have as an entrepreneur and somebody getting in business. And it sounds like what you're talking about is doing the same thing. And the balance is just keep moving forward. And as you move forward, different things will pop up at different times. And the balance is to be able to accept them, bring them into your life, and feel good about it. Is it?
I agree, and I would say so. If I'm talking to 22-year-old me or college graduate me, right? It's always about this idea of I have a essay called "Design Like a Sailor," and no matter which heading check you need to go do, which direction you might need to go, as long as you know in general where you want to go be, right? But where do you want to go be? Because when I get that question in the interview, well, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? I just chuckled myself because I'm like, I am nowhere where I thought I would be 3 years ago, let alone 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago, I was at Lockheed. I was expecting myself 3 years ago. I was at Chainalysis, and I thought I was going to be moving, blockchain analytics. And so now, 3 years later, I'm working as a chief engineer for Space Force, which was nothing that I ever saw me. I'm an Army guy, right? What am I doing in space? I've written two novels, which I had an idea I wanted to write them, but I never thought that was always something further down the road. And I'm teaching master's level project in systems engineering at a great university. So, I mean, 3 years ago, none of that was really on my radar for what I ever expected.
Can I?
That said, those are specific, tangible, like what do you call it? Professional
Happenstance.
goals. Yeah,
Okay.
well, professional goals, right? However, when I look at my life goals, my family, my hobbies, my house, my friends, those were the goals I was always going for. How do I balance those? And in doing so, that life adventure of the professional has been just a surprise. So my corridor wasn't focused on becoming a VP. My corridor was focused on balancing life a little bit more so. And in doing so, my professional adventure has just been absolutely fantastic, but nothing that I would have ever saw myself being 3, 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
Didn't John Lennon say life happens when you're planning other things?
Right. And so, but that's where I like the balanced life before work, because if you get your grounding points in the right direction, the chaos of the professional goes from a problem into a goes from a bug to a feature, if you will, right? Because if you look at my career professionally, if I had taken a standard career approach, it would have looked like I completely failed on that. Except that adventure has given me so many more unique insights that I can apply to my work today, that I'm doing significantly better in that job than others potentially, because I have that what appeared originally to be, a potentially career failure.
Right.
So, yeah, no, the question was, you've written 2 novels, fantastic accomplishment. And then we can't help but have expectations about them. So are they meeting your expectations in the marketplace?
So I went in with a simple goal: don't lose money.
Okay.
And I'm failing. No,
Hey,
I'm doing okay. So I did the independent publishing under
right.
my own watermark. It's like any sort of writing. I'm sure even with like Biz-Souls on the podcast, like, would love to 10x, 100x, 1000x, right? But then I look at the
Oh,
at the
fine, get
groups that are
personal.
right. Well, but I mean,
No, I'm
I'm sure
definitely
I'm
kidding.
sure I'm sure we're resonating on something there, right?
We
But
definitely
but
are.
when I look at those groups that have done that, and I look at the sort of, the Sam Harrises or the Joe Rogans or the
Right,
people like that, like, I'm sorry, we're not going to be them in that sense. And the people that are trying to constantly 10x end up burning out, and I don't like the content anyway.
right.
So I'm trying to write authentically and human focused. So these books are an exploration about what it means to be human. Now, I will say my daughter read the first book and loved it, and comes back to me, is still pointing out to this day, like, oh, that was like from the book here, and that was like from the book here.
That's
And
great.
she's 12.
Wow.
So if I only wrote that book and only got that feedback, it would be worth it.
Right.
However, that sort of an experience is being seen by a lot of other people. People coming back and saying, especially with Paradox, which is a novel about AI and what it means to be human. So the tagline is, in the battle or advanced AI, will we lose our humanity or learn what truly makes us human? And so many people are coming back and being like, this has been so helpful. I didn't really even understand AI, let alone who we are. It was so insightful to learn so much more about me and how I engage with the world. And so that's been the rewarding thing. So I've sold, a couple thousand copies. Am I going to be a millionaire on it? Absolutely not. But the people who have read it, who have appreciated it, has made an impact, and that's what
Well,
matters.
well,
I read it. I
well,
read it.
and I think Rona sent me a thing, Johnny Thompson, on happiness. And I think this is what is going on in the world. Like, for example, you mentioned the Biz-Souls. We do this because we are enjoying it and it's contributing to
Says
our.
you.
Well, you have to work with me, so of
That's
course
right.
you've got the harder job. We're enjoying it and we're learning from it and we're gaining from it, and we're learning skill sets that are going to be valuable in the future because everything's going to be video, and as we go forward, or some form of face-to-face on screen. And so that's the joy. And even though it's hard work, it's contributing to our lives. I mean, I
It's
would be
rewarding, I think.
yeah, I would be upset had we never started this. We wanted to do it. We wanted to start it. We wanted to get going. We're not doing the things that they tell us to do, like marketing to get it to 10x. And the reason we're not is I'm not looking forward to that. It's a lot of painful work that I don't have to do. And maybe it will eventually come. And the same with the book. Star Trek, the original series, came out and then it bombed.
Got canceled.
Got canceled.
Then we have like what, 13 episodes? I
Well,
think?
and then all of a sudden there was a
Boom,
core
right.
group of fans, and they got things going, and they said, "Hey, we want it back." Rona just disconnected herself. Fine, if you don't like Star Trek, Rona, to hell with you.
But Star Trek's a great example because, I think they went just over 3 seasons, got canceled. It really was kind of weird and unpopular, or not crazy popular, but then it has bloomed into a legacy. I mean, a
Right.
huge thing. And to your point, as Rona is joining us back on here, is
Hi. I don't know what
so
happened. Sorry. Go ahead.
no. So
You're
so
on your
when I
phone. Are you on your phone?
I have to be because for some reason my computer just shut down. So let's just keep going. This is what play does.
At
We're improv in it.
at
So
improv.
Biz Souls, we only use the finest equipment. Top of the
I don't
line.
know what happened, but go ahead.
Okay.
Finish the thought.
So to your point, one of the things that I wrote a recent essay, it's actually just came out this week, on learn, unlearn, and relearn. So there's a quote from Alvin Toffler, who is a futurist. He said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So we all understand learning. Unlearning is a little bit harder. And then from there, the relearning is kind of interesting, different ways of thinking, right? Now, I've modified that one as well, because when I write, it's the ability to form, unform, and reform ideas. So as I write these things, so polymathic was the aspiration and the freedom to go explore things, and then exploring counterintuitive insights. So polymathic, cross-domain, counterintuitive, let's keep looking at this differently and kind of extract something that somebody else hasn't done. So those two are what drive my writing. But then for me, the ability to form, unform, and reform those ideas, and to play with them, to borrow from your guys' shtick on that one, is I'm playing with these ideas. I'm trying to form them logically. I'm seeing and it's funny because I'm writing something, I'm like, I think I'm going to go this way, and then suddenly the actual counterintuitive ideas, because I've been playing with it, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that one. And so I extract something new out of it and put it together. And so that's what I think back to your Biz-Souls conversation, is having this experience, even though it's not 10xing, even though it's not always perfect, even if you don't always agree, you're learning how to deal with reality, with life, with ideas, with disagreement, and still being able to figure out how to draw play from those two together and be able to weave it together. And I think that's a very powerful thing, even if it's just you two, is being able to weave those ideas, deal with disagreement, deal with different ways, but learn how to come together around counterintuitive insights, or even just insights in general.
Yeah, it's excellent, Mike.
We don't always come together so well with counterintuitive insights, but we work on it.
We will work out, but that's the whole thing. But let me go back on that one. So I've been listening to your podcast for a while now.
Yay!
And play, right? So a little bit of so that the little bit of the banter going back and forth, but taking that into play, right? Mm-hmm. Realizing that you can in today's zeitgeist, with the political divisions and everything trying to separate us, and all the just in your face, in your mind, in your ears, just 24/7 creating division. Sometimes it helps to just get out and bloody play.
Yeah.
Right? Just set it aside. And Rona, I'm going to pick on you a little bit.
Please.
So I wrote a essay recently called "Psyop Until Proven Otherwise," and it was motivated in part. Well, let's just say it was in the back of my mind for a while. I'm writing another one called "Fear Porn." But that one was front. But then Brett Weinstein on a podcast said, how do you deal with, all this other stuff? And Brett Weinstein says, I just treat it like a psyop until proven otherwise. I'm like, that's it. That's the tagline I need. But then Rona was on Facebook, and she posts this article. And it was interesting because the article is written in a way that's going to trigger highly emotive language, almost a little histrionic in some ways, but come to find out this kid's probably a creative writing major, try to channel Hunter S. Thompson.
It was a professor, I think.
I anticipate this is because they talk anyway. I think this is a younger group, but anyway, because when I tagged them about it, we've had some dialogue back and forth. They didn't react to the criticism well at all. But I'm like, hey guys, this closer to the edge group. I'm like, hey guys, I don't care if you're trying to channel Hunter S. Thompson. You've created real world division between a friend and myself and other friends. Even with just that, the observation. So it was a great example. I didn't, call Rona out, personally. Only you people listening to this podcast know who's referenced in that article. But she did.
Are we talking about the proclamation? Pass this on with all the names on it?
No,
that was a different one.
That was a different one. This is the one about whether Trump was a Russian asset.
Right.
This hearing. And so there's this video. If you watch the video, you're like, this is the most boring interview, or not interview, but thing I've ever heard. And then you read this guy's description of it. You would think this was like some John Grisham spy novel coming in. And it's creative writing. I get that. But anyway, with psyop until proven otherwise. Oh, well, that's it. And that's the thing. It's like, so when you're reading these things, and you realize that it's triggering biases. You realize it's triggering emotions. I use an example that we are a rational rider on an emotional elephant, and these things are designed to cause your elephant to go stampeding through the jungle, right? So part of that, and this is, so FYI, Paradox chapter 20 is entitled Elephant Riding, because this is the key element that I found was so important for what it means to create an actually cognizant or human level intelligent AI system, was emotions plus reason. All right, wrap it all back together. The division in this world that's trying so hard, like why treat things like a psyop in this division? Play, I think, is such an important tool to be able to let all that go and kind of explore topics from a fun way.
Absolutely agree. And that's why I was so attracted to it, because, when this whole conversation, when you were explaining Ikigai, to me, it comes from within. It's not what's out here. It's all about you and your relationship with what's going on out here, and go ahead.
Oh, sorry, continue.
Okay. So that for me, purposeful and attuned play helps people reconnect with joy and creativity. It's to me, that's the essence of Ikigai. It's not just what you do, it's an attitude. We are so hardwired for negativity, and like you said, Jeffrey, what did you expect? Expectations are the thief of joy. If you remain present, there are no expectations.
Yep.
And when you play, you are present.
Right. And something, and building on that, there's two expectation quotes that I love, or axioms that I've come up with. Number one, specifically, unspoken expectations are guaranteed to be violated. And then that's because, number two, you expect from others what you expect from yourself. So when you hear someone say, well, I never would have done that, well, congratulations, you're Rona, I'm Michael.
Right.
What makes you think we're the same? What makes you think we have similar life experiences or anything else? But to wrap one of your points back as well, is in Ikigai, right? Balancing life before work is about trying to figure out, like, if you're trying to put all your eggs into that one basket and try to find Ikigai in work, you're going to be frustrated. It's never going to work out, because work sometimes sucks, right? But if you can start to diversify, like you said, get out, touch grass, go play, get off social media, right? Understand that that a lot of the media is trying to divide you. So, but when I say balanced life, it's as much about even balancing your own diet of media before you go to work as it is about balancing activities as well.
Absolutely.
I will tell you, when I had this one person just online too much, I'm like, go outside, go to the mall, go walk through the mall, go look at people at the mall, and tell me, does that look like social media? And they came back, they're like, what is going on? I'm like, you do realize that you had every single, denomination, political affiliation, and racial organization that was at that mall today, right? And they're like, yeah, that's what I saw. And how did they all get along? Swimmingly.
That's fine. Yeah.
So that's part of that play. Is play also needs to look at things from the perspective of not, if your reality feels too biased, flip that. That's where we talked about the intentional reframing, right? This is social media, reframe it. This is the mall, reframe it. This is driving down the highway, reframe it. This is a sports team, reframe it. Do they all have the same? No, they don't. They are vastly different. Only one of those looks toxic.
If we're pushing time a little bit.
Why? All right. While you're thinking,
no. I'm not thinking. I'm not thinking at all. I was just I was trying to get that in. Like, we want to. Anyway, we're trying to.
All right. One more point, and then we'll.
So
did you want to make a point, Jeffrey?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I have 3 points. So first of all, if you look at social media as a place to vent, and you don't take it seriously, it performs a wonderful function. And so the people can go vent on social media, and then they go to the mall and they all get along and talk about it. And in that case, as long as you don't take it too seriously, if you take it too seriously, that's when the problem comes in. And my next point was actually a question. What was the elephant chapter? What's the elephant chapter called?
So chapter 20 in Paradox is
Right.
literally titled Elephant Riding.
So is it elephant riding? So is that tied to Elephants Never Forget too, which was also tied to your point about we have to learn, unlearn, and then relearn. So anyway, that was a link. And then the third thing, I'll let you answer that in a second. Third thing is, one of the things that Rona does is she's linking play to the concept.
Ikigai.
Ikigai. And the minute she was talking about it, and she's talking about this podcast, it made me remember that when I was in counseling, that, first there's this stiffness, and then there's this awkwardness, and then you start just sharing, and then it's a safe place to share, and so you share more and more. And then all of a sudden we hit this tempo, and then all of a sudden stuff started coming out that had never come out before. And it was very healing. Cathartic and healing. So anyway, Michael, if you had a point on that, you could make that, and then Rona can sub.
This is actually pretty good. I forgot your first point, but your second point was on the elephant riding.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't actually tie in I think your first point was just an observation.
Yeah,
Your second
yeah.
one, though, on the elephant riding was so elephants never forget. So I would say that is something. Your emotions, unregulated, not realizing that your emotions are the elephant. Like, you think you're rational.
Right.
You're never retraining your elephant. You're never learning, unlearning, and relearning. And elephant has a great memory. So do we. Our emotions have a fantastic memory. We create trauma. Sometimes intergenerational trauma gets carried down in that memory, right? So until you can pause, recognize how to unlearn that and relearn something new, you're going to be dragging that memory with you, whether you realize it or not. And that's something like with PTSD. I've written about this on What's in a Brain, is that PTSD is the hijacking of your neural networks of how your brain actually processes memories. You get the superhighway connecting two discordant activities to something traumatic. And you can actually, through cognitive behavioral therapy and others, you can learn to rewire that back to a normal state of mind. That's the unlearning and relearning. So with that, if you don't understand that your elephant exists and that you're the little rider on it, your elephant does have a fantastic memory. And then the last point was
just that you achieving this state and being in the present moment takes time, and it's kind of a process, and it's a trust process among other things.
Oh yes, sorry. What you just described is the Tuckman model.
Yeah, Tuckman. Yeah.
Storming,
norming,
and performing. So this is something that both in your personal experience there, and then in the professional world, is you will always go through storming, and different stages of life. Even you and Rona, you went through a forming, storming, norming, performing. Something changes, dynamics change. You can regress back into storming. You can regress back into that. And if you think like, well, we're failing because we're no longer performing, well, like any marriage, not like a marriage, well, kind of like a marriage, right? If you different styles of life, like I've seen teams in the military and otherwise that were high performing, and then something's little changed, and they just went snapping back into storming, and they're like, well, we just need to break up the team, get a new team. I'm like, no, you're in storming, and that's okay. You have to process through storming. And that's where I think going back, play becomes really important. Get back to that play. You were like super elite. You didn't need to play. You were so good, but now you need to get back on your hands and knees and go play with some balls, because you need to get through the storming. You need to put that stuff back on the table, and you need to get back into norming and then re-perform.
Right.
And so teams will oscillate through that. And so that relationship with your counselor is the same way. All teams go through that. So where teams struggle the most is when they feel like they either shouldn't be in storming or they can skip storming. And for me, you have to embrace storming. And I would say a solution to get out of that is, as you guys talk all the time, play.
Right. Well, and that's how I get business. It's like my team's not communicating. They're arguing. They're not getting ideas. They're judging each other. All right, let me in there. Yep. And that's where play comes in so that they can find their joy and their balance. I do want to mention, going back to the other story about social media and being present. Do you know Catherine Price? She wrote How to Break Up with Your Phone and The Fun Habit.
I'm familiar with those two books, yes.
Yeah. And what's great about it is she comes at a sense of play sideways, because you can't play in its definition is fun,
Right.
And in order to get to that fun, you have to get off of social media many times, because all social media does is feed your stress and discomfort and insecurity and all that. And when you put it away and live in the present moment, and like you said, go outside. When I go on the beach to go for a run, I put on music and nothing else. And that just, it makes me happy. I'm in the present moment, in my happy place. And if we can do that more, we will feed into our Ikigai.
100%.
You know who does the editing on this, Rona?
Sorry, time to go.
The chance of that last section getting in is slim to none.
Okay. Well,
I thought that was a great one. All
right. We are over time because Jeffrey's going to get cranky. Michael, it's always fun chatting with you. I'm sure we will have another reason to bring you back.
Please do. If you guys are interested in more of these ideas, it's polymathicbeing.com. Yes. And if you're looking at the books, it's thesingularitychronicles.com. And the Singularity Chronicles website is kind of a rabbit hole where you'll find the fiction books, the nonfiction books that inspired them, and then the essays that actually weave it all together.
Yeah, and I follow you on Substack. You're on Substack.
Yep.
Good,
Polymathic Being, exactly.
And Michael, as long as you're willing, we'll have you back on a while as this develops and go, because the topics you always bring up are fabulous.
Well, perfect. I appreciate that, Jeff.
All right. That is it for us. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
And this has been Biz-Souls. Thanks, Michael. See you later.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.